Alright, welcome to the video everybody, and today I am updating my hurricane guide from 2 weeks ago. So, this is post July 27th buff to Hurricane and his kit. So, let's start with his energy blaster. His damage is up a couple grand, charge attack damage of 14,000. And then I believe they upped it to 1900 per 8 tick, so you get 14, and if they remain in the bubble, it's now doing almost 2000 per tick. Pair that with a 9000 instant damage primary shot, and you are dealing a lot of damage. Some things I will say is your charged attack will not hit all of its 8 ticks of damage here, as most targets will avoid it as they do a Sky Raider's charged missile. Same idea there. The biggest change here outside of damage is it's a 1 second longer reload time, so you should be more conscientious of your ammo proficiency. Yes, you deal more damage, but you now have to wait a bit longer for it. The biggest change to Hurricane with this update is his shield drone. Oh, come on now. And so, what has happened here is not really a change to its base functionality as a decoy, but what they did is now if a melee striker hits it with melee, it will now EMP stun them for about 1.6 seconds. So, now you can use this to counter a boxing Welkin, a spin to win Welkin. Panther gets very easily countered by this, and you could use this versus a Stellaris as well to then ping for your team and for you to deal burst damage equivalent to pretty much what Stellaris' health is. Now, since my last guide on Hurricane, I did learn a few things regarding the decoy, and it applies to versus melee strikers specifically. So the decoy effectively jams your enemy's FCS system, as you can see in the preview here. It may take a minute to get back to that, but their FCS is now dazed, so if you stand behind that and shoot through it or around it, they will have a very hard time trying to target you, as all of their damage is going to be directed to the decoy. So here is the example. Your health bar is now taken away from their FCS. Use that to your advantage and you will have no end of advantage here. The reload on your decoy is about 6 seconds, so if you're playing versus a Panther or perhaps a Welkin, you can, in theory, cycle it to use one decoy, watch the Panther or the Welkin stun themselves for about roughly 1.5 seconds, activate another one, and by the time they reach you, the third shield should be ready. That is the basics there on the decoy, or at least the updates and some more things I have since learned. Now let's move on to the defense drones. This is your big dome shield that has been changed now. So, the health is still the same, the regen is still the same, everything else is the same, except now you can throw it to a teammate up to 400 meters away. What I have found with this so far is that focusing this on a Stego or a Tricera actually does pretty good. Now, keep aware, you will have to wait a second or two before you can recall it, so if you use this for something like Korad extractors, you can throw this to your Striker, your Melee, your Lumine, your Stellaris, whatever is getting that point, and now your Sky Raiders, your Stellaris, or Stego, they can't really deal that damage to you, or to your ally. Now, an offensive trick you can use here, and this is another thing I've learned by doing, and is honestly made a little bit easier now, as long as your shield has full health, is you can now throw it to a Stellaris or a melee striker that is sitting on top of a Stego, Tricera, any of the turrets, and you can now dome the turret, so a Stego's damage is pretty much entirely negated by you doing that. And so you can, in fact, force him to move if you want to. Now, if you do that, I don't recommend holding it on them for very long, as they will burn through its health. Basically what you're doing is dropping the dome on them to block a singular volley or a singular burst of damage, to then force them to move and then recall, so that your decoy now is taking the brunt of their damage and is taking targeting off of you and allies. Turret drone did not get affected in this change. It's still the same little drone. Still 3,000 damage per tick. You can still place the 3 of them out there, so if you do that with a full charge and then burst down a Stellaris, you will kill the Stellaris pretty quick, since they can't really do anything to negate drones. The only one that can, to my knowledge as of right now, negate them is Welkin with his gas cloud, or his flashbang. Alright, and your last one, this is your big damage dealer, your focused emitter, or I like to call it my Ox 3. So it has 5 attacks a second. They deal about 1350 per hit. So what this allows you to do is cast free damage on top of your already accessible primary, secondary, and other auxiliaries, because Hurricane's Ox 3 does not lock you into any form of animation, it just simply adds one on top of it. So you can full charge a primary shot, drop turret drones, decoys, all of this at the same time, causing massive amounts of damage spread across multiple targets. Tricks I have learned for this that will apply for any new Hurricanes or Hurricanes at mid to low levels. If you are trying to parry a Panther or a Welkin, Welkin is a little bit harder, but Panther specifically, if you parry, just before the parry on the Panther, you activate your Ox 3, the parry will activate, and the beam will be doing full damage during the duration of their stun through the parry. Now, if you then use your decoy drone and play yourself around it properly, and they javelin towards you, now that javelin will stun them again for another 1.6 seconds. So take and use that as you will. If you decide to use it for the full 4 seconds, it's going to have a 12-second reload time. You can cancel it early to have about a 5-second cooldown if you so choose. One other thing that I am going to mention again is that while you have focused emitter active, it does slow your turning radius dramatically. So if you need to turn to follow a target, cancel it out, as that will let you focus and try to keep them within FCS lock-on. Outside of that, that is the basic changes that they made to Hurricane. I'm going to go ahead and launch into a training room real fast, as this should give me the ability to show you a little bit of how to play this in live game. I will also preface, all of this is going off of me having about 100 to 200 ping per game, as right now, ping is an issue in the game. Okay, so to start, your focused emitter, your primary fire. I like to have a full charge shot ready to go, so that while I'm moving around a map, I can launch a full 14,000 damage on an unsuspecting target. It will hit around corners like that, so I can place it right here, and it will do damage around that corner. And then you can also pair it to do a burst into 3, and that will deal 14, what's that? Well over 40,000 damage. That will kill a Stellaris and will massively injure most mid-health targets. Tricera and Stego can get away with it, so can Welkin as long as he has energy. outside of that, some things I have learned on the class. Keep a full charge at most times, throw up a decoy, and then just play within around your FCS range of it, and targets cannot track you. So you have full tracking here. Another thing I will mention is that if you try to put out 3 at once, it will destroy the first one. So keep that in mind when you're fighting versus melees or trying to keep them from hitting you or your team. Now, a trick versus melee specifically is that if they're doing a dive attack, simply dodge, but if you're around a decoy, try to dodge behind the decoy and then dodge again so that they will hit it, and then you can launch all of your abilities right on top of them. That is going to be your best bet for trying to deal most damage. Now, I am going to add in a Panther, and we're going to make it auto respawn off. We're going to do that. Okay, so there should be a Panther spawning in here now. Go for that. Again, getting hit with that. Any melee damage will cause your decoys to detonate, so use that to your advantage. And you can just parry this guy all day long. He is a harder one to fight since he has the access to all of those shields, so do be aware of that when you're trying to fight him. And that right there is you versus a Panther. Will that happen every time? No. But that is a general way you can try to fight them. So if you do see a Panther trying to pester you from the sides, put a decoy out, dodge to the side, and he will just hit your decoy and then stun himself for about 2 seconds, roughly. Now, from there, if you keep a turret drone on you, something I did not mention, especially if this is the first time for you watching a Hurricane guide, these drones will shoot missiles out of the sky. Not a lot, but they will shoot some. Alright, let's see. Let's give ourselves a flyer. So let's pick Falcon. Falcon is a bit of a harder fight for you since he has ways of taking away your own FCS lock-on. However, you can free aim to hit him with enough practice. And again, I'm just trying to stay around my decoys here as they are my biggest defensive tool outside of my dome shield. And then as soon as I have that up again, I like to keep them up and active as often as I can, because if you watch, you'll see that Falcon's missile barrage gets taken out quite a few times because of that. Alright, so that is a Falcon. I didn't want to switch my own. So yeah, that is kind of a basic for fighting some of your counters. Welkin, I would recommend going into Challenge 4. The Welkin has infinite energy and is a very smart Welkin. So as long as you can just go in there, fight it a few times, you'll get some practice going against one. Practice having your decoys out, practice being behind them. Welkin will become easier to fight over time. I believe that is pretty much everything I wanted to cover for now. Basic, just quick guide here. This should give you some basics to kind of work around and now have to take advantage of Hurricane. So, some closing thoughts. Get on the class, just learn it. I do recommend playing through his boot camp. as even though it is a very difficult challenge, especially with Challenge 4 and potentially Challenge 5, it is worth it as you get a lot of experience trying to fight against what I would consider your hard counter, which is, even with your decoy change, melee. Hope y'all enjoyed that quick little guide. This should get you a very quick jump start to the class. I hope you enjoy him in both Verge, Moshmok, and Ace Arena. Have a good day.